No dog has ever moved that much amount of weight. Not no Boerboel, not no pit bull, not no anybody. No dog has ever done that. Is the frame really a 190-pound dog, or is it just, for lack of better terminology, a fat? But from a working perspective, head doesn't mean anything if the animal can't make it across 3 acres. You can have the strongest dog in the world, but if it mentally isn't prepared to do that job that you're asking it to do, it's not going to move anything. It's not going to move anything at all. It's going to quit.
The number one thing a good working dog wants to do is to please his master.
Step into the realm of canine wisdom with our podcast, Nwacanecorsos, where we interview dog men and women from around the globe, discover their talents and insights on breeding, training, nutrition, and the rich history of dogs.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're back for another one. If you ain't been here before, we talk all things dogs with people from all over the world. We got brother Eli in the house, Cold River Boerboels in the house. What's going on, man?
What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm in it to win it. I'm in it to win it. Well, it's a honor and a pleasure. You know, you ain't you kind of popular, I'll say. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just me.
Well, if you're in the dog algorithm, you gonna pop up. You know, yeah. Especially in the Boerboel world, they can't deny you.
I appreciate it. I'm just me. I ain't nobody special.
Yeah. Where you from?
Pennsylvania.
PA. Born and raised?
No.
Okay.
Thank God. Can't wait. Okay, not much longer. We're getting out of PA.
Oh, okay. Cool. Hey, so I know that I'm gonna try to cut through some of your timeline. I know you've been in quite a bit different breeds, working at different breeds, and different thing. And one thing I think I was reading, maybe it was your website, you believe in a total dog. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You believe in structure, conformation, workability, all that. You ain't one of these guys just purely over here and over there, because one thing about you, I noticed, you understand that the totality of the dog, what makes the dog. I don't think a lot get that. So yeah. So
the total dog is it's important, it's important.
Right.
You need an all-around dog. It's for us at least it's important.
Right. So you know a lot for the weight pulling. Don't you got some weight pulling records? And if so, explain those to us.
Yeah, so last year our Boerboel Sun Wukong, he set the new weight pull world record. So he pulled 16,930 some odd pounds, right? So that was a new world record. That was a UPF world record, is what it was. UPF, the United Pulling Federation. And then a few months ago, we went back to the BullyMax sports arena that they have over there, and we broke the record again. This time, Sun Wukong and his littermate brother, Mr. Wednesday, they both went out at the same weight of 22,039 pounds.
Wow.
So, and that is not only a UPF world record, but that's a record in any organization, in any weight pull organization in the whole entire world. No dog has ever moved that much amount of weight. Not no Boerboel, not no pit bull, not no anybody. No dog has ever done that.
Wow. Okay. You said BullyMax. I see you do a lot of work with them. Are you affiliated with them?
Yeah. We're sponsored by BullyMax. So we're, as far as I know, we're the only Boerboel breeders that are sponsored by a dog food company. I mean, BullyMax believes in what we're doing. They believe in our program, and they came to us and they sponsored us, and we've been using their food now and their supplements for a couple of months. And man, it's amazing stuff, man. I have nothing but good stuff to say about it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll get into the dog food later, because that's something I wanted to talk to you about. But I noticed, mostly in dogs, people think size. The bigger the dog, that's gonna make them stronger. But when does weight interfere with work? How do you know?
So you don't want a dog that's too heavy, So if heavy, and when I say too heavy, I mean heavy for its frame. It needs to be balanced out for the frame. So like if you have a dog and I'll just use whatever number. That's just, you know, you got an 80-pound dog. I'm just gonna throw in a number, right? But it has the frame of a 55-pound dog. Then your dog really isn't an 80-pound dog. You just fed it up to that weight, and it's just walking around fat at that weight. So that's where the problem comes into play. So it's the same thing with the Boerboels. You know, you'll see a lot of people that they boast weight, but when is too much a problem, right? So and it goes down to the frame of the dog. You know, if you have a 90-pound dog, I mean, you know, 190-pound dog, does it have the leg to it? Does it have the length of body? You know, is the frame really a 190-pound dog, or is it just, for lack of better terminology, a fat fuck? You know, just, you know, anybody can do that. It's the same thing with a person, right? Like, you know, we can overeat and just walk around at 300 and something pounds. But are you, you know, 5'2" at 300 pounds? You get what I'm saying? So it's a difference.
Right.
And I think that's the easiest way to compare that. And that's when it becomes a problem, if the dog doesn't have the frame. Now, you can have a dog that has a frame. Like our dog, Mr. Wednesday, he's pushing, you know, almost 29 at the shoulder. He walks around the farm about 195, 194. When we compete with him between 187 and 180. And that's not stuff that we can make up, because the dogs get weighed in because there's weight classes. So every dog has to get weighed in before competes. It's public record, so we can't make up numbers, right? So I wouldn't compete with him at 190. He's too big for that at that weight. But now bringing him down at 180, 179, you're already starting to see rib cage on the dog. You're starting to see a tuck. You're starting to see those ribs starting to show. So what does that tell me, you know, as a trainer or as a conditioner? Okay, this dog has the framework to compete at 180, at 185. You know, if I really want to rip him down and really, you know, get crazy with it, maybe bring him down to 174 or something like that, but like really lean the dog out. At 180, he's already starting to get lean. So that's where the difference comes into play, where you say what's too much and what's too little. So he has like the frame for that. You know, we're like his brother, Sun Wukong. He has the height very similar to Mr. Wednesday, but he don't have the bone density to walk around at 190 pounds. You know, him walking around unconditioned here at the farm, he's about 173, 175 is what he ranges for, right around there. I compete with that dog at 167, sometimes 159, 158. I'll bring him down. So, and he has the framework for that, but I would never try to just feed him up to, like, you know, 190. Yeah, if I stuff enough food down his face, yeah, he'll hit 190, 100. Is he really that dog? No, he's not. And it's not going to serve me any good, you know, to try to work him at that weight. You know what I mean? It's just not.
Right. So while we're there, I want you to help some of the our pet parents that's listening. That, you know, when they get their puppies, especially you being a Boerboel guy, you know, the number one thing they gonna be talking about is he not getting big enough fast for me? He's not doing this and that. Can you kind of explain to them why you want the puppy to take his time growing?
Yeah, I tell that to people all the time. You know, it's detrimental for the joints. You know, the joint health is the biggest thing. So you want a slow and steady growth if you can. Like some dogs are going to grow a little faster than others just because of a particular line or whatnot it is. But you just want to control the amount of weight that's going to be on the joints, you know, because you're going to get, you know, you don't want to mess up the hips and elbows to that extent, because it's just not good for a growing puppy to hold extra unnecessary weight. I try to tell people, especially they're getting a dog from us, keep it as lean as you can, as lean as comfortably you can. There's going to be a time and a place for you to be able to put more weight on the dog. And if you want to add some extra pounds, you can do that, but just wait till he gets out of the growing stage, at least to like 16, 17 months. Then you can say, okay, now we can add some more weight if the frame calls for it. You know what I mean? But it's just not good for them to walk around, especially as a young pup, with all that extra unnecessary weight. It's just really bad for the joints. It really is.
Right. So I tell you what, man, I'm almost 50 now. And one thing I noticed, a man ain't shit with a bad back or bad feet, right?
Yeah.
So you don't know how much you use your back until you hurt it or something like that. But with the feet and a working dog, And being that you're in the sport of weight pulling, how does the science of the ankle, the feet, how do you strengthen those areas, and how do they work in conjunction? What percentage of the pull do you think those the ankles and the feet like that play a part in it?
Well, that's a good question, and for us, like we're feet people over here. That's one of the things that we look for, because that's the foundation of the dog, right? When you're looking at it from a working perspective anyway, like that's the foundation of the dog. If your ligaments and tendons are loose in those feet, in those paws, all that translates up the feet, up into the pastures, up into the leg. All that comes down to there. So for us, weight pulling not only exercises the whole body, but you can see it, especially in dogs or young dogs that are loose in the pastures, that are splay foot. If you start doing that exercise with them in moderation, nice controlled weight, you see the feet start to get closer together. It starts to strengthen those tendons right here. And then for us that do it at a professional level, that means a lot because we get more power. The power starts here, and then it translates to the rest of the body. So when you do, weight pulling, especially like on a slight incline or as much of an incline as you can get responsibly, you see that all that starts to strengthen up really nice and tight. And the power, I firmly believe the power starts there.
Right. Now, I know that I've been hearing you talk here and there, little experts on the science of it all. Like, oh God, But I noticed before we got on, you got up, and I thought I was looking at the Incredible Hulk for a minute. So have you ever did like any powerlifting and anything like that in your life?
No, I mean, I work out. You know what I'm saying? I've worked out. Yeah. I'm a fat fuck right now. But I, just worked out and just been that guy that's into nutrition and working out, and it just translates over into the dogs.
To the dogs, yeah. So pit bulls, you got a kind of love for them too, huh?
Yeah, that's the original breed for sure. I mean, my personal opinion, there's probably no more versatile dog on the planet than a well-bred American Pit Bull Terrier.
Right.
It's just, it's a decline in the breed. It's a decline in the ownership. The nonsense that comes along with the breed nowadays. I probably always own at least one of them, but it's just not the same. So
right. Yeah,
it's an amazing breed of dog. It really is.
The cultures of dog communities can can jack things up. So being that you had started out in that breed, and it's one of the baddest working breeds, probably America's #1 working breed, hands down, right? How was it difficult transitioning into that size dog into the Boerboels? For its performance.
Yeah, so for us, not necessarily. So I'll give you a little bit of history. So we had the American Pit Bull Terrier, and I also had for quite some time a specific line of pit bull that was they called it the Whopper dogs. Realistically, and those guys were 80, 90, sometimes 110-pound dogs. The American Pit Bull Terrier really isn't that size. They crossed something into it. Whopper dogs and dagger dogs is what they called them. Those dogs had something else crossed into them to get them that size. But they did that. It turned into be a hell of a weight pulling dog. And they created, a dynasty based off of those two different lines, dagger dogs and Whopper dogs. And so I have the experience with some of those guys. So coming into the Boerboel, it just kind of transitions over. And for us, the mechanics of a dog is the mechanics of a dog, whether it's a Chihuahua or it's a Boerboel. Like it's, everything's still kind of the same. You look for the croup, you look for the angulation in the rear, you look at the pastures, you look at the feet, whether it's on a Chihuahua or it's on a Boerboel, it's pretty much the same. It's just about how do you raise them then for the sport? That's where the difference comes into play. The American Pit Bull Terrier, has lines of dogs for generations now that have been bred specifically for weight pulling. Then they have the crossover of the Whopper dogs and the dagger dogs, and those dogs were crossed and specifically for weight pulling and for moving heavy weight, and they were very successful with those two lines of dogs. Where coming into the Boerboel, there isn't any of that. Like there's nothing when it comes to that. So you just kind of have to use a little bit of common sense and use the knowledge that we have from those breeds of dogs and kind of just transition over here and just say, okay, what applied over there, I'm just going to apply it over here, and I'm going to apply it on how we pick out dogs for temperament, workability, and for structure, and just move that information from that box and put it into this box, and let's just see how it turns out. And that's kind of what we've been doing, and it's been working so far for us.
How long you been in the Boerboels?
Been in the Boerboels now for about, I think it's like 6 years, 6 or 7 years now.
Oh man, okay, yeah. So when you so with you being a working pulling and stuff like that, what made you gravitate to the Boerboels you start to pick for your program? Was it what the breeder was doing, or it was just what you just kind of naturally saw?
Yeah, so we got a Boerboel, and it was just going to be just a regular farm dog here on the property, and that's what she was. And then we got a second Boerboel, and it was funny because we had one in really, really good shape, and people were like, they were in an uproar about it. Like, you can't do that to a Boerboel. I'm like, why not? Why can't you have it? It's not a pit bull. That's usually what they were saying. They're like, it's not a pit bull. You can't do that. I'm like, well, why not? You know, why can't you have it in good shape? Why can't you do that? So that's what kind of started, the wheels started to turn, right? And then after quite some time, my wife and I were just talking, and we're like, well, if we get another dog, I just don't want to breed just to breed, right? You know, we talked about it, and well, what is lacking in the breed that we can see, you know, that what we saw at the time. And it was, well, I don't see anybody doing anything at all with the breed dog, you know, and I'm not knocking anybody. Hey, you want to just breed just to breed? That's on you. Right. For us, it was like, you know, coming from the competitive side, it was just a hard pill to swallow just to do it. And I'm like, well, we got to do something with them, you know, and obviously not everybody has a farm. Not everybody has stuff, you know, that way. And what's the original intent of the dog? The original intent of the dog is an estate guardian dog. So, you know, yeah, I can do that. But, you know, again, how do I test my stock? How do I show workability? How do I say as a breeder, well, I am doing something other than just saying, I'm breeding for X, Y, Z, but how do I show that? How do I prove that? Right. And coming from the world of the American Pit Bull Terrier, you know, you can't make claims like that in that world. You know, they want receipts. You know, they want to see workability. Let me see the titles. Let me see the dogs on the track. Let me see. You can't make blanket claims like that and not get called out on it. So for us, we're like, well, you know, how do we do that? So we just went back into what we knew, which was, you know, the sport world. And I put a dog in a harness, and we started putting her through like I put her through like a mock keep. I want to say it was maybe like a 5 or 6 week keep. I said, let me just see how she handles it. And she did amazing. And she did fantastic. And the light bulb just went off. I seen the workability. I seen the potential there. So we ended up getting another dog and immediately put that one right into a keep and just started. I said, let's see how this goes. And then I saw the potential in the breed, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of potential here if you just tap into it. And then the rest is history. That's how we started going. And every dog that we had, even if we don't go to a show, every dog, it gets put into a keep. You know, a minimum, you know, 8 to 10 week keep, just to see if they physically can handle the workload and then mentally handle the stress that comes along with that, you know. And if they can handle that, then that's a dog that stays here, gets added to the program. And if it can't, then on to the next one. No big deal, you know. And just keep going.
How many Boerboels do you normally keep?
We got 6 right now.
6, yeah. You know what? That's what I noticed. Programs they ain't running them $20, $30 dogs no more. It's not. It's just too much.
You need the space. You know what I'm saying? You need the. Imagine 20 Boerboels. You know, you need space. You know, and even if you do have the space, man, it's a lot of food, a lot of time.
Yeah,
it's not a dog that I probably just want to have just out in the kennel doing fucking nothing all day.
Right. Yeah,
you know, I wouldn't look forward to doing that. So
yeah, you can't do nothing with that many dogs.
You can't do that. No. Even when you see some of these people, some of these breeders in Africa, again, more power to them. That's their business. But when they got 20, 30, I see one kennel look like they had like 50. They said something like 50 Boerboels out, you know, just you see them everywhere, you know, and in these kennels. How do you spend that much time with every dog? Like, how do you know what each dog's personality and quirks and this and that and the trainability in that dog and this dog. I don't know. I mean, if they can do it, more power to them. I just can't. I just don't.
Me neither.
At least not for me.
No, that's way too much. And dogs ain't selling like that, like people think they are. It ain't. People get in and think they finna move some puppies shit. You be sitting on them joints they be 5-6 months. They've been on graduated college with you.
Yeah, it's different. It's different. And even with us, we have dogs that, like Son was the first Boerboel to ADBA registered. So we went, and that's one of the things that we did with him. We went to the Lion's Den. We went right into ADBA. We started competing against the top people with the American Pit Bull Terrier. So 2023 it was. He became an ADBA national champion. The first Boerboel to ever do that. The first Boerboel to become an ADBA most weight pull national champion. And the first Boerboel to ever receive an ace title with the ADBA. So, we're over there competing with the big guys, with some of the best trainers in the country. So that for us is what we need in our program. And even with doing stuff like that with dogs that they're different stuff, people still don't always understand what it is you're doing different, and that's why they should probably get a dog, from someone doing something different.
Right. You speak on the keep, right? And then we know nutrition is important in the keep. We can segue into the BullyMax. What does BullyMax do for you that other feed previous didn't?
Well, what I like is the no corn, wheat, or soy on that. I had dogs that were having reactions on their paws, like they're in between the paws were flaring up, and we're trying to figure out where the hell that's coming from, and it's good food and expensive stuff, Once we switched over to the BullyMax, all that disappeared. All of that went away. And that for me, just that alone right there, I'm sold. Just that right there, because it's nothing more frustrating than putting 8 to 10 weeks into a dog because you're getting ready to go to a show, and then now you can't go because his feet swelled up because of whatever ingredient caused them to have that reaction to it. That's a waste of time, waste of money, waste of supplements. I mean, time, it's frustrating. And that's where we were at. That was starting to happen. We're trying to figure it out, like what is happening here. And I knew it had to be food related at that point. Based on everything we've done before, I'm like, it has to be food related. And when we switched over to that, all that disappeared.
Yeah.
So,
and that's important too, because you physically can see the inflammation that the food is causing. And being a guy like you working, you thinking about the joints. How is joints feeling, on something like that? You know what I mean?
And then being a foot person, I understand how important it is to have good feet, right? Especially for like weight pulling. It's all starting right there. The dogs are gripping the carpet, pulling themselves forward. Their feet need to be in really good health, and that just was beyond frustrating. So just when we got rid of that alone, I'm sold. And another thing is the 600 calories. The calories are a really big thing for us. The more calories you can get in, the less food you actually have to feed. So the calories are a very, very big thing for us, especially on a working dog.
Right.
That's a big plus.
Are you able to feed less volume wise on the BullyMax? BullyMax, y'all about to send me a check now. I'm talking about this food. Hey, y'all, I want 10% of whatever he getting. Now.
Yeah. So anytime the calorie intake is that high, you feed way less food. Like the one time I tried this one food, I'm not going to say the name of it, whatever. But so I tried the one food just to try. It was like a salmon rice thing. And I tried that with Mr. Wednesday. So to keep weight on him, especially a dog that's working a lot, spending a lot of time indoor, outdoor, doing that stuff, and running around the farm, plus getting ready for competition. I mean, I was feeding him 10, 12, 13, sometimes 14 cups of food a day, which is a lot of food. And anything less than that, he was not holding weight. And listen, and we go through a good deworming program here. Dogs are worming constantly. Again, you want to compete at the top level, you got to go down the list and do all that type of stuff. So that's not the issue. It was the only way to keep the weight on the dog, you know, especially when he's working so much. Now on the BullyMax, he gets 6 to 7 cups of food a day.
Mm.
On a 180, you know, pound dog that's competing, walking around at 190 some odd pounds.
There you go.
You know, and again, I'm just using weight as a reference, not as a flagship. It's just so you understand how much we cut, you know, the food was able to get cut in half like that, you know. Obviously wintertime, if they're spending more time outside in the winter, then you're going to bump the food up a little bit more than that. You know, obviously you want to have a little bit extra weight on the dog if they're spending a lot of time outside in the winter. But like right now at this time of the year, 6, 7 cups of food a day. That's it.
Right. Well, I'll say this. Well, that's important that what you just said, that you don't have to put all that dang on. That's a lot of feed.
A lot of feed.
Yeah, I mean, golly.
And then your chances of bloat increases, you know, because it's this much fucking food in the dog, in the stomach, you know, and then if you got them, you know, that started to be a concern for us, you know. I'm like, man, you start worrying. I'm like, I'm feeding it that much.
Yeah.
You know, hey man, I'm like, it's only a matter of time. What I'm going to do, crate everybody after they eat and put them away for, you know, an hour, 2 hours and stuff. And these guys don't like to be crated up. You know, they don't like it. So that was a big concern for us. And that's another big, huge plus going over the food like BullyMax, the 600 calories, you know, for their pro that they have.
Right. As far as litters and stuff, you still doing good on healthy litters and all that? Food plays a part in that.
Food plays a part in that. I know you've probably been around long enough. You heard the one food brand that starts with a V that was messing up the bully dogs for a long time. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We had to. I was calling my buddies, and because we were having the female heat cycles was off, and we was like, we're trying to switch. And that's I'm gonna speak on. It's another food out right now. I ain't gonna, you know, we ain't gonna call no name.
Yeah.
Just be hype foods. Yeah. And you know, I'm the podcast man, so you know they always emailing me, giving me information. Hey, this hype food is again messing up my dog heat cycle. I told him change, because I already been hearing about it.
Sure.
Call me back, change the food. Oh, she went in the heat.
Yeah. I haven't had any problem with heat cycles. I mean, I just had a litter of pups from Mr. Wednesday a few months back, 14 puppies.
Mm-hmm.
My dogs have been pretty consistent. You know, I only have like 2 females that, you know, they're a little bit funky. They've always been funky. And when I say funky, instead of going every 5 or 6 months, they kind of go like every 7 or 8 months. But that's
I got one like that too. Yeah, she's always been that way.
Always been like that, you know. They're not missing cycles, or they're not going a year and a half without anything, or I'm not missing breedings or anything like that. It's again, and then I have other friends that are sponsored as well by BullyMax, and they've you know, we talk about it, right? You know, they pick up the phone, hey, how you doing? And they have been, you know, nothing but, you know, successful on the stuff. I'm sold, man. I'm gonna be honest. When we first got into it, I was like, well, we'll see how this is gonna work. All we can do is give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work, right?
Right.
I'm sold.
Yeah. Because you wouldn't feed it if it's hurting your dogs, because it's gonna hurt everything. Yeah.
Listen, I like competing, and I compete to regardless whether I get first, second, or third. For us, it's about showcasing the workability in our program, regardless of the place that we get. But with that being said, of course I want to win. You know, of course I want to do well. Right. Of course I want to be as best as, you know, be the best I can be in my field that I'm in. So if I thought this was hindering us in any way, shape, form, or fashion, I wouldn't be on it.
Gotcha. So you asked a dog to pull a lot of weight.
Yeah.
What kind of supplements do you use, if you use any?
Yeah. So we got a whole different we got a whole line of supplements from BullyMax, from BCAs to glucosamine and chondroitin, which are very important. I think even if you're not competing and you have a large breed dog like this, they should be on a regular dose of glucosamine and chondroitin for sure. 100%,
yeah.
100%, you know. Yeah. So, you know, a multivitamin, 100%, you know, that they need to be on a multivitamin. And BCAs are very, very important, especially when you're trying to build muscle and hold muscle, ligament tendons, and health like that. So, you know, they're on all that type of stuff. I mean, these guys eat like athletes. You know, they eat like athletes.
Yeah,
Everything's laid out, proportioned. You know, the supplements, everything's there.
right. So, you talk a lot about the hips. I've heard you mention
Uh-huh.
the angulation, the back legs being the engine of the dog. That
Mhm.
goes back to when you were talking about the total dog. Kind of explain to the audience a little bit about structure, the back end, how it works, and helping you and things like that.
Yeah. So again, I a lot of that has to do with coming from, you know, the world of the American Pit Bull Terrier. Even in the show ring, I forget. I don't want to misquote what percentage of the dog, but in that world, the rear assembly of the dog is judged very, very heavily. You know, with the ADBA, like the judges, that's one of the first things that they look at, and that holds a really big chunk of the score, if you want to call it a score, when they're looking at your dog and they're dissecting each dog to each other. The rear assembly is one of the first things that they look at, because that's the drivetrain of the animal. That's where the power originates from. You know, and if we look at a dog like that, where its original purpose was a fighting dog, right? In the box, it was that you couldn't have a weak rear end, right? That's where the power generated from. So even today, when the dogs aren't being used for that, the judging standard for the dog goes right to the rear because of the original purpose of the dog, right? So coming from that world, you learn to appreciate the importance of a good put together rear assembly. So for us, when we're looking at dogs like that and we're evaluating dogs, we just can't help it. Like I just gravitate to that. And it starts off at the croup, you know, the angulation of the croup. You want a slight angulation of the croup. You don't want it flat. You don't want it over angulated. So you got that huge slope. You just want enough of a pitch there, and then the rest of the stifles fall into play nicely. But when that's off, you know, then you start to get dogs that are straight or stifled, especially if you're over angulated, you know, in the croup, then the straight stifleness comes, and so on and so on. So it starts there and then works its way down. But it's, for us, that is one of the most important things for us, where, you know, which, if you look at like the breed standards, like if we're talking about like a SAB standard, right? The SABs emphasizes on the head and the front assembly, which I understand the importance of that, because that's like the flagship of the dog when it comes to SABs. You know, they put a lot of emphasis on the head, the structure. They want it to look the part of the Boerboel, and they put a big chunk of the scoring goes to the head, which I understand the importance of that. But from a working perspective, fucking head doesn't mean anything if the animal can't make it across 3 acres, you know, to the other side, you know, to protect my, you know, sheep, or there's an intruder or whatever the hell is going on over here. What good does a giant ass head do for me if it can't move correctly? So for us, especially in the sporting world, the rear assembly is where we start with the animal, and then we work our way forward.
What are those things called? Y'all don't do the shows. What do you call the evaluations y'all do in a Boerboel? I always forget.
The appraisals.
Appraisals.
Yeah.
Do you participate in those, or you more?
I do from time to time. You know, I have a love-hate relationship with the appraisals. We're gonna fucking get pissed off when I talk about it. I have a love-hate relationship with the appraisal system. And look, and then some people say, oh, well, he must have dogs that scored, you know, bad or whatever. And that's always go to that. No, look, Mr. Wednesday's a 92 point whatever. His daughter's a 90 something whatever at you know, 15 months. I don't, an appraisal score is just one thing, right? From a working perspective, it means absolutely nothing. You know, it means nothing, right? You can have a 92, a 95, a 98, but if the fucking dog can't perform when I need it to perform, that score means absolutely nothing to me. Nothing. And especially where, you know, and this isn't a knock at any organization that does appraisals. It's just that, you know, when sometimes you see dogs that have flaws that affect the movement, right? And that have a high appraisal score, like they're high in the rear, they're straight stifled, but they got a score in the 90s. It's like, how were you scored in the 90s when the drivetrain of the fucking animal it's already messed up?
Right.
But it's because if you look at their scoring system, you know, objectively, it's because they put so much focus on the front assembly. And I say the front is really the head, the front. So like their response is, well, there's more than one way to get a high score on the other parts of the animal. And I get that from a points perspective, but from a working perspective, it doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense to me, because if your rear assembly is jacked up, what does it matter? And then sometimes for people that don't know, that are new to the breeds, like they focus so much on a scoring system, instead of looking at the dogs that are in front of them, they'll say, well, I'm going to take a dog that's in the 90s over here, and I want to breed it to this dog that's in the 90, right?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of looking at the dog's flaws, they're just looking at numbers.
Right.
Because if that dog's in a 90 and this dog's in a 90, if I put them together, I must get 90s. Shit, I'm going to get hundreds. That's their perspective of it. But then when you look at the flaws on each dog, you say, well, wait a minute, these flaws match each other. This dog is high in the rear and straight stifled. This one's high in the rear straight stifled. And then they just produce a whole litter of high in the rear straight stifled dogs. They might have nice, beautiful headpieces, but they're high in the rear and straight stifled. So how does that better the breed then, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm sure that's going to agitate a bunch of people that I said that, but it's the truth.
It is the truth. It is the truth. And plus, let me add to the agitation, because I struggle with it too. I got to go to a confirmation show this weekend. And when you talk about the show world, it's basically about hiding flaws. So your dog ain't perfect, but I know I gotta try to hide it. And that's just like
that's a handler's job. Like safety handlers that get paid, to do that, right. They do their job well, right? Yeah. When they stack a dog, they hide it really fucking well until the gate comes out. When it's time to move the dog, all that stacking goes out the window, and that's when the flaws come out. As soon as that dog starts the gate, But their job, again, as soon as you stop, is to and hide it, and they do a great fucking job at it. I'm not knocking them for it. And I'm not knocking anybody's appraisal system. It's just for me, I don't hold that as much weight on the appraisal system for any organization as I do a working title. That means more to me than the appraisal score.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So let me touch back on the puppy growth and everything. You might have said it, but I don't know if you didn't, just help me out here. So like this is for more the pet parents. If they starting, a lot of them don't understand structure, but what do you do for weak ankles and knuckling over and things people might run into as puppies? What do you tell your buyers?
Well, it's going to depend. You got to look at why that's happening, right? Is it you have the animal in a crate that's too small, right? Mm-hmm. That's another thing that'll cause dogs to start going down on their pastors. You have people that, well, I got to go to work, so I stick them in a crate, which I'm not against that, right? But sometimes you got to realize these guys grow really fast, and if you get a dog that's constantly looking down like this to look out the door because the crate's too small, all you're doing is putting all that weight, that pressure back on those pastures, and it's constantly doing that. What is it going to do? Especially on a giant breed dog where all of those tendons are all loose. So if it's constantly doing that, guess what? It's constantly going to keep, you put pressure, it's bending all that. And I've seen that happen. I've seen people mess up feet because they put them in, I forget what they were called for a while, but you see them a lot with like the bully people with the Frenchies. They had them like those stacking crates where they would stick a bunch of Frenchies in and stack them like the cages where the feet, I've seen people do that with Boerboels. They stick them in crates like that with the feet. And then what does it do? It splays the dogs out right away. Yeah. Because they're walking around on that grate. That grate. I'm like, you can't do that to a giant breed dog.
Oh, yeah.
But you're not doing that with a dog that's growing that fast. All you're doing is spreading the feet out like that. And I've seen it happen. So you got to try and assess why that's happening. Is it environmental? Is there an issue just with the dog is just growing too fast? A lot of the times, and some people hate when you say, elevate the food and stuff like that. You don't necessarily have to elevate the food. That's a big thing. That's the easiest thing to go to. Elevate the food. You put them up on their tippy toes and you start practicing that. But going up steps, just taking the dog up and down steps, a lot of the times will strengthen that. because you have that weakness, or depending on the age of the dog, you put them in a weight pull harness and we go drag just some light weight up a slight hill. That starts to strengthen because they're grabbing the ground and they're using that every step. They're starting to use those ligaments and tendons, and it starts to straighten it up. So there's stuff like that. Ester C is another good thing to give them, especially when they're doing that. Ester C is a really good thing to do. So it's kind of those things where you got to look at what's happening, assess what is it that they might be causing it to do, and then kind of take it from there.
Right. Would you consider yourself a purist when it comes to dogs?
I want to say yes and no. I'm going to say I was for the longest time, like especially even with the Boerboel. Like when I first got into it, it was like, you can't have any black. You can't have the black.
I'm trying to get you in trouble.
Yeah. At the beginning of that, I was like, no, I don't want a K-line dog. I don't want the black. But then when you start, excuse me, I'm spitting everywhere. But when you start looking at, and really diving into the history, it doesn't make any sense to me to be a purist when it comes to it. It doesn't. Regardless of what they say, what they walked around, they picked out 70 some odd dogs across South Africa. No history of the dogs, just yes, Boerboel, no Boerboel, yes, Boerboel, no Boerboel, yes, Boerboel, no. I'm sure, listen, only they know, but I'm sure there was some black dogs that they said no to. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just random dogs along a farm. We don't have no idea what their background was. They just
same story here on my end on the Corsos.
So to be a purist of what? Of background, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I get it. Some people's arguments to that will say, well, there was a breeder that came out at some point in time and said that, yes, that they mixed something into the dog. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. But, if you want to argue that, you can say, well, it's still a developmental breed, right? It's still in that stage. So you can go back and forth with that. Now, if I look at it from a working dog perspective, I don't give a fuck if the dog is purple.
Yeah.
as long as it does its job, right? As long as it does its job. So the black dog thing, I'm over that. I'm over it. I think the AKC needs to get over it. I think everybody just look, it's there. Sabs already, allows it. NABA allows it and stuff like that. All these other organizations. The same thing with the black and tans. If you really look into the history of black and tan Boerboels, black and tan has popped up. As long as you can look at the history, the black and tan has popped up. The same thing with the dilute/blues, dogs. They popped up throughout the Boerboels history for a very, very long time. So what is there to be purist about? If those colors, you might say, well, it's not ideal for the standard. Okay, I can take that.
Okay, there it is. Yeah, right there.
I can see somebody says, well, that's not what we wanted for the standard. That's not ideal for the standard. Okay. I accept that. Mm-hmm. I can accept that. But to say that was never part of the breed or something like that, when you look at the history of it and you really dig deep, and black and tans have always popped up. Dilutes have always popped up, and so on and so on. So you can say, well, that's not to standard. And I can agree with that. Somebody can say, but those colors have always been there. They've always been there. So.
Yeah. So, when you get into that Boerboel, the Corso and Press, they got similar stories where a dog was put in somewhere. And then, like you said, the standard going to say this. And I'm kind of saying, well, okay. Yeah. So some of the arguments are getting old. Yeah. They get real old.
It gets old. And look, like, if you look at the AKC, what they're doing, they're saying, we're not even going to register any dog that has a black dog in its pedigree at all. They call it the KG, right? Even though the dog itself doesn't carry it. They just call it a KG pedigree. And they do the research on your dog. They say, no, your dog has one black dog 6 generations back, right? So we're not going to we're not going to let, AKC register your dog. Okay. How much more that can it handle long term, right? When we're talking about genetic diversity, right? So because there's a lot of dogs now that have some form of a black ancestor, because it's accepted from the original SABs, the mother organization, if you want to call it that. They accept black dogs now. So it's normal for them to breed dogs, with black in it. They just put the K on the pedigree, and that's that. There's going to come a point in time where the AKC, I feel, is probably going to genetically put themselves in a corner,
Right.
I could
Well,
be wrong.
you know what? I ain't gonna tell you who this is, but he's a pretty large Boerboel breeder. I ain't gonna name his name. I was talking to him, and he was telling me that the exact thing, talking about it already needs some diversity involved. I said, well, why? He said, man, he said, I done had a few that done broke down in 4 years, just broke down. I'm like, how? Is that because they too big and some of the lines are just too big and sloppy?
I think that's just because they're not doing anything with them. This is what happens when you remove functionality out of a dog.
Yeah.
That happens not just with the Boerboel, it happens with every breed, right?
Yeah.
You remove the functionality out of the breed, well, of course they're gonna fucking fall apart.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
look what happened with the German Shepherd, right? When you look at the AKC show version of the German Shepherd, what did they start to do? It lost the functionality, right? It's they wanted that glide. Well, what how did that really improve the functionality of the dog? It did. It was cool to look at, I guess, to see a dog in that, shape like this going like that. But what happened long term, right? Those dogs fall apart. I think that's kind of the same thing, not only with the Boerboel, but with any breed that starts to lose its original purpose / functionality. And that's what happens when you breed dogs just to breed dogs. And I'm not knocking anybody that does that, right? Like, hey, you got to feed it, you got to take care of it. But the reality is when you ask questions of, well, why are they falling apart? Because you're breeding them to fall apart. You're not doing anything with dogs to test whether or not they can physically handle the workload or, more importantly, mentally handle the stress of the workload. Because that's a big thing too. You can have a dog that can physically do it, but is he going to be mentally there to be able to handle the stress of the workload? And I cold-heartedly believe that that's what's going to be the downfall of a breed like this.
Let me ask you this: is this wishful thinking or just a observation? When you think of AKC, you think about paperwork. Even a damn puppy buyers.
Sure.
They don't give a damn really about no paperwork. They just want it like for as a birth certificate.
Correct. And even that, no. Yeah.
Right. Do you think things can possibly change, especially when you got the show and the working world, if the AKC geared more things to working things?
I don't know. Well, I don't think it's going to change because you can turn around and you can say, okay, you know what? I don't want to do AKC.
Yeah.
Okay. Or you can say, I don't want to do AKC. Right now, where do you go? Well, you can go UKC. UKC has more sporting events than AKC does.
Yeah.
Technically, from a sporting dog perspective, UKC has more sporting dog events than AKC does. So you can go to UKC and do fast cat, dock diving, weight pulling. You can, then the list goes on and on. Barn dog stuff. There's a huge, and they have a lot of working title per se things for you to do with your dog to try to. So I don't necessarily think it's a registration issue. I think it's more of an owner / breeder issue.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely.
Because the registrations are going to do what they do. They're just here to provide you paperwork.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Some of them are here to provide you title, right? Titles to go with your paperwork, so you can prove that you, as the breeder or the owner, fucking did something with your dog. Whether it's chasing a bag down the field, a fast cat, or it's weight pulling, or you walked into the fucking show ring and just did the show ring. That's what they're there for, right? It's whether or not you as the owner are going to do that, or the breeder decides that they're going to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Much as we want to blame some of the registries for it or the organizations, is it really their fault?
No, because the decisions fall on the breed clubs and they give it to the AKC. Yeah. So that's a good point. How do you keep your dog's mindset motivated without them losing their drive? And what do you do if you see one kind of losing? What do you do to pick them up?
So it's a little different for us because we have the experience, right? So I have almost 30 years of experience myself in weight pulling and working dogs, training, conditioning, nutrition. You add my wife into the picture. She's been doing it with me for almost 20 years. We've been together 19 years. So if you combine us together, we have almost 50 years of training, conditioning, feeding dogs the correct way, right, for this type of shows and competitions. So for us, it's a little more second nature than somebody just coming into that. So that's I kind of have to say that before I go any farther, right? So it's a little different for us, but it's a slow process. So when you're getting into the sport, and this happens to a lot of people that first get into it, they think it's about moving the weight. They think it's about the strength. I got to get the dog stronger. I got to get the dog physically stronger. What do I got to do? I got to keep putting more weight to drag. How do I keep doing stuff like that? And it's about slowly mentally preparing the dog for the stress that's going to come along with that. Because you can have the strongest dog in the fucking world, but if it mentally isn't prepared to do that job that you're asking it to do, it's not going to move anything. It's not going to move anything at all. It's going to quit. It's going to stop. So as a trainer, you slowly increase the workload. You never want a dog to stop. You never want them to quit. You want to build up their confidence. So when the weight does get really heavy and they got to buckle down and start really putting their body into it, in their mind, they've never failed. They've never failed. So in their mind, I'm fucking Superman. I got this, because every time he's asked me to move this, it's always moved. No matter how heavy it is back here, as long as I tried, it moved. And it's like that, I think, with any training. You never want a dog to fail. So that's the biggest thing, is never letting them fail. Because once you let them fail, man, that's going to put you back so fucking far. It's months of retraining from the mental perspective. The physical, for us, is easy now, right? Because we've been doing it so long. The mental part is the part that you really have to baby, you really have to watch. And sometimes it means either giving a dog an extra day off. Sometimes it means, you're taking your dog out to the field, you're getting ready, and you're just looking at the dog and you go, man, you're not feeling it today, buddy. You just don't, you look like you're stiff. You just don't look like you're yourself, like people, right? Sometimes, and then sometimes you have to decide, which one is it, right? Is it the dog's just having a bad day, or the dog generally needs some more rest, right? Which one is it? And you, as the trainer now, and the nutritionist, and the manager of the dog, you have to make that call, because unfortunately they don't speak English. They can't tell you, yes, you have to be looking at your dog and say, you know what, bud, we're not even going to do this today. What, let's just go for a walk. Let's just go for a walk. And then take it back. You know what? I'm just going to massage you down now for the next 45 minutes. I'm going to give you a good muscle massage for 45 minutes. I'm going to rub you down. I'm going to put you in this cold tank for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. I'm going to walk you out. And then that's it. We're done for the night. We're not even going to do nothing. We didn't do nothing. And then we'll take it back up tomorrow. Tomorrow I might look at the dog and go, okay, you're ready to work. You know what? No, you're not ready today. You know what? I'm going to give you an extra day off. Even though I already marked it on my schedule that we're supposed to be doing that, you're going to have to pivot and turn. But you have to observe your dog. You got to look at it. You got to go, no, we're not doing that today, because you just look like you're not feeling it, right? And that's how it is. But you have to decipher, is it the dog? And then some dogs just don't want it, just aren't there. That's just not their thing. They're just not, you got to make that decision. You got to look at the dog. Is the dog present? Does the dog want to be here, or is the dog just having a bad day? And you say, man, we're having a lot of bad days, buddy. You're looking like you really not really into what we're doing. You're having a lot of bad days. I just don't think this is for you. Okay, all right, on to the next one. You know what I'm saying? I'll find you a good home. You know what I mean? No problem. This is not for you. Or you look at your dog and you say, man, I've been putting in the work with you. You just need some extra time off. And then some dogs just need a little more time to mature. Sometimes you can look at a dog and see the potential and just go, you know what? And I see that more with males than when I do with females. But you look at a dog and you just go, you know what? I just think you just need a little more time to mentally mature. We're done. I'm going to put you up. For the next, 4 months, we're just going to hang out and be a dog. We're just going to chill together. I'm going to do some obedience work with you. I'm going to get you in tune. We and you are going to learn how to be a team, right? And for me, I'm always big on obedience. Your dog learns you learn the dog just by doing simple, dumb obedience stuff. You guys learn how to be a team. You learn how to read the dog. The dog learns how to read you just by doing those simple things. And then, you know what? We'll have at it again. We'll have at it again. if you still not there, then I'll make the call whether or not, you know, I want to try to give you a little more time or this just isn't for you. But a lot of the times when I've done that with dogs and I looked at them and said, you know what, I'm just going to put you up for a little bit. We're done. We're done for the next 6 months. We're just going to be a dog. We're just going to hang out. We're going to do obedience stuff. You know, we're going to do some fun stuff together. I'm going to learn you. You're going to learn me, and take it from there. I'm going to say 8 times out of 10, the dog has made it. You know, the dog just needed a little bit more time to mature and sit back. But you got to make those calls. You know, you have to learn that, and I think that comes with maturity, and that comes with doing it with a lot of dogs. Doing it with a lot of dogs. So it's a hard thing to explain to people, but you have to go through a bunch of dogs to really kind of learn that and appreciate that and be able to say, you just need to relax for a little bit and just be a fucking dog for a little bit.
That's right. That's right. I got one more question for you. Maybe 2. But temperament.
Keep going.
Okay. Temperament. How does the Boerboel temperament supposed to look? What are you looking for? How important is it?
For us, it's really, really important, especially again with my background here. We got the farm, and I got 5 children here that are homeschooled. So my kids are a very big, important part of everything that we do day in and day out. And I didn't understand it until I actually started having children. You know, I got young kids. We just started having kids within the last 10 years. So my kids are okay. So when people used to say to me all the time, well, you'll get it when you have kids, or kids are really, you know, really bring out bulletproof a dog, you know, because kids are unpredictable. They move funny. They do stupid things. They drop things. They're loud. They're this, they're that. You know, so I need a sound dog when it comes to that. I don't need a spooky dog that's being spooked out by any little thing that the kids do. Not that a child is supposed to be, you know, hanging out with them unattended or anything like that, or, you know, taking advantage of you as the, you know, the parent, you know, step in and, you know, make sure that this isn't happening. But I also don't want a skittish dog that's constantly, oh shit, you know, what happened? What's over there? What's going on with the kids? So I look at that aspect of things. And then, you know, the trainability. As I'm getting older, when I did this when I was 18, you know, I looked forward to the thrill of having an over-dominant dog that was, you know, like the stallion you needed to break. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, you earn the stripes.
Yeah.
You know, you earn the stripes by taking that overly dominant dog and teaching him and training him and getting him in to do the things you want him to do. I don't look forward to that anymore. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be fighting with dogs anymore. I'm getting too old for that. I'm looking for a dog that's easy to train, that wants to be present with you, that's looking for direction. Hey, what are we going to do? You know, so that's what we look for. And I enjoy looking for dogs like that. And for us, these guys are too big to be, you know, overly challenging. You know, the Boerboel is what it is. It could be a dog that can be pushy, right? You know, because of its original intent that was bred for, right? So you have that sense. Some of these guys can be a little dominant and stuff, and I don't mind that per se. But I don't want a dog that's constantly challenging me. I don't want a dog that every single fucking day we're going out there, it's a challenge.
Right.
Those days for me are way over. I'm too old for that.
Yeah.
So I want to go that's easy to handle, easy to train, that's looking at me like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Just show me what to do. You want me to do that? Okay, I'll do that. You want me to do that? Okay, I'll go do that. You know, and it's just constant. Great. That's great. I don't want a dog that's challenging all the time anymore.
Right.
Those days, and these guys are too big for that. So I'm looking for a dog that's easy to train and wants to be there and is looking for direction. It's like, what are we going to do? Let's go do it. You know. Right. And sometimes those dogs aren't for everybody. Sometimes people just want fat couch potatoes to do nothing. But for us, and as a breeder, you want a happy balance, because it's you can't place every dog in a working home. You know, as much as you want to believe that you can, you can't. You know, so you're gonna try to find that happy balance. You know.
Yeah. You know what? A buddy of mine, he a hog hunter here. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but his name Brad Sneed. He hunts hogs with dogos. Circle S. And he told me something that always stuck with me. He said, the number one thing a good working dog wants to do is to please his master.
Amen.
I said, there you go.
Amen to that.
Yeah,
Amen.
yeah.
Amen.
So he said that's why my dogs fit good in families and everything, because that's what they want to do. Yeah.
That's what you want to do. I don't want a dog that's fighting for dominance all the time. You know, I don't. And don't get me wrong; they serve their purpose in certain programs and stuff like that. And some, protection programs and those guys, they love dogs like that, right? You know, me here, I don't need it. I don't
Right.
need it.
Right.
I feel if my dogs were getting quote unquote too soft, then maybe I might look for something like that. But even then, I'd rather have a dog that just wants to fucking please me and just follow me and just, you want me to do that? Okay, I got it. And a dog that's looking at me going, nah, I ain't doing that, bro.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm doing this. What are you gonna do about it? You know, and now you having that conversation with the dog.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm just too old for it.
I feel you, brother. Bro, Eli, man, I appreciate you coming, man. What a hell of a conversation. How do people get in contact with you? Could you drop your Instagram and all that stuff?
Yeah. So Cold River Boerboels on Instagram, on Facebook, TikTok, and coldriverboerboels.com is our website. It's our website.
Okay, man. All right. Well, I thank you much. Much success to you and your program, and keep on whooping that ass out there like you doing.
All right, man.
All right, guys. We out.
Take care.